Hey, today I'm going to talk about what I found in an estate sale a couple weeks ago. I'm kind of excited about it. And, you know, I haven't been playing as many retro video games as much lately. I'm trying to sell some of my collection. So I'm trying to get into some new hobbies. And one new hobby I decided to kind of get into, not to the extreme of retro gaming because that kind of took over my life. But one hobby I'm trying to get into is retro computers. And one thing I saw in the estate sale I really liked, and I brought it home, and I'll show you what it is right now. Let's take a look. So it came in this huge package, this huge nice case that was specially designed for it. And when you open it up, you'll see that it has some stuff inside. It has a SCSI cable. It has a keyboard. You'll notice that it is an Apple keyboard. There's some more cords, AC adapter cord, and then also there's a mouse. You notice it's an Apple mouse, an old one with just the one click on it, one button, and then there's some discs it came with. But here's the main event. Here's the thing that I bought pretty much. It is a Macintosh SE. And this is the model with 2 disk drives. There's a few different models of this computer. There's one with a hard drive. There's one with 2 disk drives. And I think there might be different sizes of the hard drive. I'm not too sure. But this one is just a double disk drive. It's not as valuable as the hard drive one. But to me, it's just as good. The one with the hard drive, I think it had like a 20 gigabyte hard drive or a 40 gigabyte hard drive. So with the one, when you get the one with the 2 disk drives, you have to have a bootable disk that can run the operating system, because it's going to run it right off of the disk. And this is it. It just says utilities on it. But when you don't have this disk in here and you turn it on, nothing's going to happen. It's just going to go to like a screen with like a blinking disk icon. You have to insert the disk so it can boot the operating system off the disk. And then after that, you have the other disk drive for your other stuff, you know, games, utilities, whatever else you want to run on your Macintosh. So let's boot this thing up and take a look at it. But I'll tell you right off the bat, I know there's 2 things wrong with it. One is that it's extremely loud. The fan is like, it works, but it's just very loud. The other is that the bottom disk drive does not eject. You have to push like a paper clip inside that little hole and it comes out. I opened it up and I tried to figure out what was going on with it. I couldn't figure it out. Everything looked normal. So I'm not too sure about it, but it's not that big of a deal because I usually just keep the operating system on this disk inside the computer at all times anyway. No need for me to eject it because I'm going to need it every time I boot up my computer. The annoying loud noise, that's kind of annoying, and I might just take off the fan so I don't have to hear that every time. I'd rather not have a fan and worry about it overheating, even though I don't think it's going to overheat because I only use it for probably 10 minutes maximum at a time. And then I turn it off for it to cool down. So I'm not too worried about it overheating. I might just take the fan off. But I'm going to show you, I'm also going to open it up today and I'm going to show you what it's like inside of this thing. Let's take a look. So to open up a Macintosh SE and pretty much any Macintosh with this style case for that matter, you'll need one of these really long tools called the T15, Torx 15. You can buy them online for like $8 or $9. And it has to be really long for a reason. It has to reach all the way up into where the handle is of this machine. There's 2 screws up here, and it has to be long because it has to reach all the way up inside. And if you just have like a standard one, see how deep that goes? If you just have a standard screwdriver, it won't work. So it goes like that deep inside. And then there's also 2 other screws that you'll need the same screwdriver for. One here and one here. So there's 4 screws in total. This next part is a little bit tricky. You need to get something in here between the top of the computer and the back of the computer and kind of wedged in there really slightly and really gently to kind of get these two apart, because they're a little bit tight the way they go in, and it tightens after you put the 4 screws in. It tightens them back up again. So you just got to kind of wiggle something inside of there to get them loose again. And I just recommend like a butter knife, and do it in an area where it's not too obvious, because you can dig up the plastic if you do it in a really obvious area. So I try to do it like on the bottom back here. So you'll see the top just slides right off. You have a look inside here. And guys, remember, do not put your hands around certain areas, especially when you see this symbol. You can get electrocuted. You could die if you do it the wrong way, if you touch certain areas. So just focus on a few different areas. And I know that the areas you shouldn't be touching are the areas with the monitor and the area with the power supplies, which I believe is back here. And I don't think you should touch that. And I know that they can discharge after 24 hours, but I don't like taking my chances. I don't like touching it. Just it's a good practice to not touch it at all. But I just want to show you guys around a little bit here from what I know. So this is the monitor right here, the CRT monitor, and that's why it takes up so much room, because it's the bulk of the machine. I mean, these things were huge back in the day. And then this is the fan right here that's making all the noise, that I'm trying to think about maybe just removing completely, but it's not, it's soldered in. So to remove it completely, I'd have to kind of first take this panel off, and then you could see back there, there's like 2 solder joints right there, 2 solder points right there. And I could probably just, you know, break it off. I don't even have a soldering gun, so I'd probably just try to break it off, and I'd have to unscrew these 4 bolts right there. These are the disk drives. You see there's 2 disk drives, 1 and 2. And this is the one that does not eject. So I took all this apart. I took the housing off. I opened up the disk drive and I looked at it, and I looked online and trying to figure out what was going on, and everything looked normal. So I don't know what's wrong with it, but like I said, I'm just going to leave it because it's working. It's just not ejecting. So right now there's 4 things plugged into the logic board, and the logic board is right back there. You can see a little bit of it. I'm going to open it up in a second, but I just want to show you what's plugged in. So this thing is plugged in right here, which I believe goes to this board, whatever board this is, and the monitor. So that's plugged into the logic board. And then the 2 disk drives are separately plugged into the logic board. Then there's a 4th thing that you can't see right now that's plugged into the logic board. I'll show you in a second. I think that it controls a light or something. I've never actually unplugged it yet, but it is plugged in. So just be careful when you're taking the logic board out of this thing and messing around with it, because it is plugged in, and just make sure you don't like tear it off or something. So this whole thing just comes off. I guess it's just like a heat shield or something, so that if something catches on fire, it won't spread. And this is the logic board. So to remove this logic board, be careful. You just have to kind of do it a certain way, which it kind of lifts up and then it comes out. You'll notice here that there's some slots, right? So you see that these slots aren't lined up yet. You have to lift it up before they line up. And then when you lift it up, then the whole thing will slide out, and I'll show you that right now. But before you take the logic board out, what you got to do is you got to unplug those 3 things I was telling you about, and they are right over here. So you just kind of loosen them up a little bit and they'll come out. You can put your hand in, you know, it's not going to hurt you by putting your hand in here, and just kind of pull. 1, 2, then the 3rd is there's a clip underneath that you got to lift up to get it out, and then it'll slide out. And 3. So now that you've done that, turn the computer this way, and the whole thing will slide up But now that you see that these grooves are lined up, it means it's ready to come out. Just kind of folds out like that. And remember, this is the part where you don't want to pull too hard, because as you see, there's still one cord connected. So this was the cord I was telling you about, which I believe controls a light. And it's still connected right now. And I don't know, guys, I don't know a lot about these logic boards. I just think they're really cool to look at. You'll see it has the Apple computer logo right there. You'll see that there's RAM slots. I believe there's 4 RAM slots, and I think they all have 1 megabyte each. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is the one thing that goes into that other board. I'm not sure what it does exactly. These are the 2 disk drives going here. This must be some kind of an expansion. And let's see. And then I guess maybe this is some kind of an expansion as well. But I mean, it's just really cool to see this. I love looking at logic boards. This one looks to be in good shape. There's no corrosion that I could see. All the capacitors look to be in place. And this thing right here, I don't know what it is, but I think it's it's a lithium battery. It says right there. It's not leaking. I know that those tend to leak over time. So I was really happy with the insides of this machine. I think that it's in great shape. Sometimes, you know, they leak, they corrode, depending on where you store them. But this one looks like it was stored in a nice temperature-controlled environment, so there's no issues there. I just wanted to show you guys the inside of this thing. This is probably about as far in as I get. I don't like to disassemble too much more. Like I said, I did take these 2 disk drives out, but I haven't done much more than that yet. So that's probably all I'll do because it's working, so I don't want to mess with it. I'm going to put it back together now. When you're putting it back together, make sure that you do it the same way it came out. So the left side slot goes into the slot right here. And then the right side, you have to line up with those three things, and then you push it in, and then the whole thing just slides down and pops into place. After that, don't forget to plug in the 3 cords that you took out, because it's not going to work if you did it. One time I put it all back together, and I forgot to plug these 3 cords back in, and I turned on the computer and nothing happened. I was like, oh my God, I broke it. Then I remembered I forgot to plug these 3 in, so that's why it didn't work. Okay, now that you got those 3 plugged in, remember to put this heat shield back on. Just kind of slides on the back, on the bottom. And make sure that the ports are all lined up. Right here, you'll see those holes for the ports. And make sure the sides are tucked in, like right there. Check both sides. It looks like it's a good fit. If it fits, it should just slide on. You shouldn't have to force it. If you have to force it, it means it's probably not set up properly. So it should just slide right back in. Then you can put your screws back in. it's all set up. It's all set. Now we just need to plug everything in to get it booted up. Let's put the computer over here, fix the camera, and start hooking up all the accessories like the keyboard and the mouse and the power. All right, guys, it is all set up and ready to boot up. And remember, you need the disc to boot it up. If you don't have the disc, you can buy one online. But this is what it looks like when it comes from Apple. And you just insert it, get the nice clicking noise, and then go to the back, turn the power on. So you can probably hear how loud the computer is because of the fan. I'll just try to talk over it. Welcome to Macintosh. I know it's not going to pick up that well on the screen. There's going to be those lines that are going to go through when you record it, but I just wanted to show you anyway. And maybe if I hold it back a little bit, it'll help. So this model came, I believe, in there's 2 different or 4 different models, I'm not sure. But I just wanted to talk a little bit about the price. And one of the models for this model right here was $2,200 in 1987. So you can imagine today, that would be like, what, $4 grand? You know, it's 2019, at least $4 grand. And then the HD hard drive model, I think it was FDHD. I had a little FDHD right here. And this slot was covered up with like a panel. That one, I believe, was $3,200. So that would be what, over $5,000 today. So these things weren't cheap back in the day. And they come with 2 disk drives, but these are not disk drives like I remember, which are 1.44 megabyte. These are actually 800K disks, and they're double-sided. You'll see right here it says double-sided. They're not the newer ones, which, like I said, hold 1.44 megabytes of information. There's also, I learned, a 400K floppy disk, which was from before even this. So it's hard to get disks for these machines these days because you have to have something that writes to an 800K disk, and not a lot of stuff does that, unless you can get this thing on the internet, which would be kind of difficult. But I found a service online, I forget the name, I'll put it in the description though when I remember. And basically you can buy these discs which have like the bootable disk to boot up your computer. You can buy games, you can buy utilities, you can buy programs, and they're not too expensive. I got like a whole pack of 15 games, and I'll show you them right now, for $13 shipped. So I mean, if you can do it yourself, that's great, but it's going to take some work to get it going, and I just didn't want to have to deal with that. So for 13 bucks, I figured I'd just buy some games. So you see, these are all the games I got. There's about 10 to 15 games here, and you'll see their size. Arkanoid is one of my favorite games, and it's really big size. But when you open up the game, you'll see why. It's 305 kilobytes. And there's some other more simple games like Hangman, Checkers. I'll just open up Checkers and show you guys what it's like playing a game of checkers on one of these things. Right now it's probably set up for 2 players, so I'll do computer is black. There's a few noises, some blips and bloops here and there. I'm gonna quit it now. Let's try Missile Command. This is a really cool game. Okay. And I do want to show you Arkanoid. It's going to take a little while to load because it's 300 kilobytes, but I'll probably just fast forward through the video. Let's check out Arkanoid. And believe it or not, it's loading. It's just, there's no way of us knowing. Like, to me, it almost looks like it locked up. But this is what you had to do back in the day. You inserted the disc, you waited a minute or two, and then finally it came up. And there's no loading screen or anything. You just knew that this is how long it took. So you can tell it has like real music and real sound. And this is a great version of this game. I have this game on NES, and although it is in color on NES, I think that the graphics look actually a little bit better here because they're so smooth and fluid on this nice CRT monitor. Alright, just wanted to show you Arkanoid. Pretty awesome game for the Macintosh SE. I kind of want to get some more games, but I know it might get expensive if I get another disc. So I know that there's Tetris that I don't have, and I kind of want it on the Macintosh. But I'd have to spend another $13 to get it, so I'm thinking about it, but we'll see if I get it or not. That's all I'm going to show you for the games. I showed you 3 games. There's a few more that I like, but I just want to show you now, when you're ready to eject the disc, you just drag the disc down to the trash can. I'm going to zoom back out for this because you got to see the bottom. There is your disc. And if I did it with this one, which is the utilities, which has the operating system and everything on it, then it would not eject. It would try to eject, and it wouldn't come out. So there's something wrong with that disk drive, but it's all good. I'll show you this. I'll show you Teach Text, which is basically just a cool, simple typing program. So you could just say, "Hello, my name is Matt," and I love this keyboard. I mean, I love how when you type, my cap lock is on. It makes that nice clicking noise. I live in Maryland. I am 38 years old. So I don't have a printer or anything to print this out, but I can save it to one of the discs if I want to. So I could save it as Matt 2. And I'm going to go ahead and quit. And now I'm going to go ahead and shut it down. So to shut it down, just make sure you go special shutdown first. Don't just turn it off from the back. And now it's ready to turn off. So thanks for taking the time to watch this video with me. I don't know a lot about these classic Macintoshes. I was actually more of a PC guy in the late 80s and 90s. And I didn't get into Macs until the early 2000s when the iPod caught on and the PowerBooks got popular and stuff like that. So I never really had one of these until more recently. But now that I have one, I see all that I was missing out on. I did use a Apple II when I was in elementary school. I remember playing that game called Number Munchers. It was the monitor was a little bit bigger than this. It had the keyboard, it was kind of built in, and it had the two side-by-side 5 1/4 inch floppy disk drives. It didn't have these smaller 3 1/2 inch disk drives, which became more popular in the late 80s. But I mean, this computer is a classic. The shape of it is classic. Apple used it for a while from like the mid 80s with the first, I think the first one was in 84, and then they stopped kind of designing this type of computer, compact computer, in the mid 90s. And I don't know if you remember that show Seinfeld, but Jerry had one of these sitting on the shelf, and it's just such a classic computer because it's kind of like a laptop in the sense that you can carry it around. It has the handle on top, but it's not a true laptop. You know, you can't like carry it under your arm. But it's great. It's a great little compact machine, and it has the keyboard and the mouse, just a simple one-click mouse, which Apple finally decided that they wanted to focus more on the 2 clicks around the 2000s. But they were really stubborn with that. They wanted to keep that 1 click. That made them unique for the first like 20 to 30 years of that corporation's life. But yeah, I'm happy with my Macintosh SE purchase. Like I said, it was $105 for all this, including this pretty awesome case that was designed just for the Macintosh SE. I thought about the idea of maybe getting another classic Macintosh machine, like maybe an Apple II or something like that. Maybe one of those iBook G3 clamshells with System 9 installed on them. But for now, I think that this will handle my classic Apple needs, just because these things do take up quite a bit of space. But thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video on my discussion about the Macintosh SE, and have a great day.